Welcome into the KC Laboratory, presented by Emprise Bank, member FDIC. More amazing partners in possible here at KC Sports Network. Kent Swanson here with a very well-rested Maddie Lane.
Let's go. Well,
I don't know. We missed you on the KCSM post-game show on Saturday because I know you weren't going to be up till 2:30 for that one. But
back-to-back days because we had another late night the following night watching the most boring UFC fights. Final fights. We're a little sleep deprived this weekend.
How I didn't get to see any of the fights. How were
they? The main card up until the main event was great. We had back-to-back spinning elbow knockouts. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, just flatline. It was awesome. And then the final fight was 25 minutes of counting sheep, and that was not as awesome. It was kind of like watching the second half of the Chiefs game that I'm assuming you had so much fun with. So yeah, not well rested, but I did miss post game. I was sad to miss it, but also if there was a post game to miss, this might have been the correct one to have something come up like some sleep. I haven't got a chance to listen yet. I promise I'm going to. But I did have to ask you, how did your quarterback one do?
Who's my quarterback one?
Well, Joe Burrow. I figured you'd have a lot of thoughts on how your QB1 did.
I need to avoid this conversation altogether. I've actually put out a couple feelers to move him. It seems like there's some people.
Would you like Lamar Jackson by any chance?
No. I mean, I
need the second best fantasy football quarterback. That's fine.
Here's the thing: I took Joe Burrow in the 4th round of our startup dynasty league, just because I don't think he should have been there that far. It was just it was good value, and I think there's a lot of Chiefs fans that were just in that draft that were just not about it. They just
never going to touch a non-running quarterback that early. No chance you were going to catch me not getting a non-rushing quarterback that early in the draft.
I think I would have done it for Josh Allen, but I don't know if I would have done it for Lamar because I just worry about the injuries.
Joe Burrow's been vastly more. You know what? Listen. We're going to be on a tight ship today. We don't need to get into this. Joe Burrow's a bigger injury risk than Lamar Jackson. That's fine.
Which is why if Lamar had been there in the 4th, I would have taken him too. I think that's about where it starts. Like him now?
No. I'm good. I don't want anybody on your team, I don't think. All right. So let's move on.
You sure? You sure about that?
Yeah. Have you not checked the Discord? Nobody's chose your team. That's all I'm saying.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
That's all I'm saying.
Winning in year 1 still matters in a startup dynasty,
sure.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Those banners still fly the same. That's all I'm saying.
Year 1 doesn't fly as good as my dynasty that I'm setting up.
Oof. I have some opinions.
Braylon Allen cooking, about to take over the starting job with the Jets.
Corey Krosky Merritt cooking.
Yeah, behind off
first pick. Just saying, no. Brian Robinson's getting traded.
No one's trading for him. He's a running back.
I think should the Chiefs trade for Brian Robinson Jr.?
No.
Why not?
You shouldn't, because he's not that good.
Is he better than what they have?
Yeah, but should you trade for something that's slightly better? No. I don't think he adds anything to the room. I don't think there's a significant gap between Brian Robinson and Isaiah Pacheco. Is he maybe a little bit more consistent? Sure, but he has somehow even less dynamic ability. I think he'd be the best running back on the roster, but unless we're doing a player for player swap, I don't get the appeal of Brian Robinson just because I don't think he adds the element that every Chiefs fan thinks we're missing in the run game. And I got some run game venting to get off my chest here in a little bit, but I don't think Brian Robinson is the type of running back that fixes that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, improving the talent on the roster, I do think it would have to be a player for player type thing for me as well, because Brian Robinson's on a contract year. And Corey Krosky Merritt is going through the roof to the moon, and is sitting in my bench right now. So,
what is going to be for his real team?
I would like to. I would look and see what a player for player swap. Would you feel comfortable? I know this is probably a layered question, so just give me a yes or no. Would you trade Joshua Williams in a contract year for Brian Robinson in a contract year?
Sure, because I don't think Joshua Williams makes the 53-man roster. So I would obviously make that trade. You could even stretch it out for me to a Najee Johnson instead, who I do think I know some Chiefs fans, the comment section is probably lighting up right now about how, they'd rather Joshua Williams play instead. Najee Johnson, I think, is clearly ahead of him in the depth chart. I think he's clearly gonna make the team. But if you even wanted to go that far, sure, that's fine by me, because I don't, I think you're just dealing with two guys that aren't gonna change the like dynamic in that position room at either position. So I'll go ahead and I guess take the running back who I think helps. Now I don't know what you do at cornerback without Najee Johnson because it's already thin, but like I would even probably go that far.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any defensive linemen I'd be willing to give up. I don't think.
I have none.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Talk about that too.
We got all kinds of things to break down today, but we do appreciate your supporting KC Sports Network today and watching this show. And we've got plenty to break down from the game 2 of the preseason. So let's talk about it a little bit. We'll start with the offensive line. I think, Tucker and I didn't say Josh Simmons' name until about 30 minutes into the KCSN postgame last week.
What did you talk about?
Guy, honestly,
Big
started
understood.
Started naming random football players before we got into Josh Simmons. Like we started just trying to pull a bunch of names and stuff before we even got into the Josh Simmons discourse, really. But I think that was probably one of the bigger storylines, even though it's the storyline that continues to dominate the discourse here in Kansas City. But we did get to see some first-team offensive line. Jalen Moore starts at right tackle. Kingsley Suamataia, the left guard, and Josh Simmons at left tackle. What were your takes on the Chiefs' offensive line?
All right, I'll ask you the dealer's choice here. Do you want positive? Do you want negative?
I want takes.
Okay. Let's go Josh Simmons to start. I actually thought it was like a not a step backwards, but I think he was a little bit better in the first week than he was this week. And there's a couple reasons for that. Like one, I think the Chiefs tried to showcase a little bit more out of their offensive line. They challenged them a little bit more in pass protection this week. And actually that pass protection, Simmons was generally fine. And you still see he's so explosive out of his stance. He's going up against a really explosive edge rusher, and he had no problem getting up the arc and kind of like beating Boye Mafe to the spot, and then being able to frame him at the top of the rush. So from that standpoint, you feel great. Like the athleticism continues to pop. He was never really overpowered or anything like that in pass pro, so you feel good about that. It does seem like he's like mentally working a little fast. Sometimes he's getting to a spot so quick, and then you can almost tell that he thinks that he has to do something next. And so there's a couple plays where I felt like he lunged into contact and he probably didn't have to. There was just no reason. So it does feel like he's kind of playing sped up, which is a very normal rookie thing to do, especially if you're a super athlete. So have to see if that calms down, maybe if he plays again this upcoming Friday. If not, when they get around to week 1. What my biggest issue, I don't think it's a cause for concern yet, but it is something I got my eye on. The run blocking was really bad from Simmons in this game. I mean, like especially on the outside zone stuff, there was one time where he was backside, one time he was front side. Like it was really bad. And he kept doing like this little gallop step out to, it was again, Mafe, who's not a great run defender, but he was doing like a skip or gallop step out there. And he was just so late with his hands that Boye Mafe just got hands on him first, ripped him down, and went off to make a play or like slow down the run. And the first one in particular could have been a really big gain if Josh Simmons did like anything for his run block. So actually, I did think the run blocking was pretty bad this week. And it showed up on his tape a little bit, Ohio State. He doesn't always strain through contact on some of these edge blocks where he's not expecting the ball carrier to come behind him. But this is the NFL, man. You can't take a play off and think you're okay just being in the way. You got to strain every single play just in case it comes your way. It's a coaching point. Not going to be concerned until it continues to show up. But I did notice, like, I did think the run blocking was really bad from him. And the effort in the run blocking game, I thought was pretty bad for him.
Yeah, I think that's, I think it's a fair statement. And like the good news is that is fixable. Those are all things that you can teach. Those are all things that, like, as you're progressing through this process, like that's a good coaching point. It's a good opportunity to bring that to light a little bit and point some of that kind of stuff out. So like, yeah, if it becomes a continual issue, that's when we have to start really hammering it down. I do anticipate that we're going to see some reps of with him. There seems to be indications that you're going to see some of the first teamers against the Chicago Bears at home in the final preseason week. So that's a good thing.
Got some thoughts on that later.
I have some thoughts on that too. I have some theories too, a little bit. I think
teaser.
That's what we call a teaser in this space, folks. But okay, let's get to Kingsley Suamataia. What you think?
Opposite of Josh Simmons. Great in the run game. I thought he was really, really good in the run game. I thought he was working his combo blocks really well. He had to do a couple different variations. Sometimes taking over the D tackle and letting Creed kind of climb. Another time he was just like readjusted, like he throws a shoulder to the D tackle before he climbs up to the second level. I thought he looked really good in the run game. He's moving bodies. He's aggressive. Like he has the demeanor you need for a run blocker. Pass protection. It's a journey. I just I to keep it kind of shorter, right? He has the same issues at offensive guard that I think he had at offensive tackle. He's laid out of his stance, which puts him behind on the play. And then he's having to play catch up. And while he is a very good athlete, we talked about it, he moves like a track athlete, not a football player athlete. And what I mean by that is his base gets narrow, his shoulders get high, he gets to his spot and then has to reset to play football. He's not getting to his spot already ready to play football. And I think you continuously see that show up when it's getting him knocked off balance. And once again, he trips over another player, but he's getting pushed into other players because he's off balance. Later in the game, we see him get completely smoked by Byron Murphy on the outside because, he's just laid off the ball. And then when he tries to throw his punch, he's not in a position to actually use his hips and like ride the 3-tech out of the pocket or anything. So I see some of the same issues we saw at tackle. It's been such few reps. It's hard to make sweeping statements, but they did only throw 3 true passes, like pass sets from this game, and 2 of the 3 were bad. The other one was only okay. Like I am a little more concerned about Sua Matea's pass protection than I am than Josh Simmons' run blocking, if that makes sense.
Kingsley's such a weird one because like the hope was, hey, let's put him in the phone booth and maybe some of the issues that you saw with him at tackle as there was more space wouldn't show up, but they still do. I think, the hands are very late, like when he's trying to stay and maintain balance. And when he tries to use his hands, he gets out of balance and he lunges. It's like this weird dichotomy that hasn't really worked itself out quite yet in the early time here. So it's been tough to watch a little bit, especially because like we know how important pass protection is for this team. Like, yeah, like there's some really cool things that could be, materializing in the run game here with that interior 3. But as much as this team likes to, get 5 out in the 5 out in the route, like you need to rely on him a little bit more in the passing game. So how do you feel confidence wise at Kingsley Suamataia being the starting left guard in week 1? How would you feel?
I think it's the right move, right? We haven't seen Jalen Moore really play guard in a preseason game. I know they've flirted around with it a little bit in, training camp and stuff like that, but it doesn't feel like Jalen Moore is being put in positions to compete at guard. It feels like they are just cross-training him there in case they need him there in the future, right? So, and I thought Jalen Moore was fine at right tackle. Nothing stood out as great. Nothing was like, oh, that's concerning at all. I still think Jawan Taylor's your starting right tackle, and I don't think it's a competition. I just think that Jalen Moore is getting reps more as a backup than he is as a guy that's going to start. I think if we continue to see Kingsley struggle in the final preseason game or to early to start the year like he did last year, I do wonder if it's not a short leash again, though, right? Like this team's never going to be a power run team. You're never going to, if Kingsley doesn't get better, if he kind of stays at the level he's at right now, just for this year, in terms of being, let's even say a B+ run blocker, but like a D level pass protector, I just don't know if this offense functions that way very well, especially with Trey as your other guard, who is better at both probably, but still like has a little bit of a discrepancy. He's a better run blocker than pass protector probably. So like, I just don't know if they can survive the entire year like that. So I just wonder if Jalen Moore's got right there on Kingsley's, heels, letting him know there is somebody waiting, but I don't know if it's a competition.
I'm the presence of Jalen Moore over there on the right side so consistently has me more worried about Jawan Taylor, not as a, hey, is he going to play for us? It's like, or is he good enough to play for us? Or it's more, is he going to play for us? Right. It's injuries. It's worrying about that injury. It's managing that injury. I think keeping him off the turf last week in the rain was a smart idea. Letting Jalen Moore continue to get reps, like he's got to just jump in there and play and be the right tackle for this team. But I wouldn't hate the idea potentially of Jalen Moore kicking in there and playing left guard. I think there's a decent chance that he's a best 5 player with what we've seen to this point. The book's not closed on Jalen Moore at left guard for me, in my opinion. I'd like to see that happen. And so I think it's definitely worth monitoring who the best 5 is for this team when it's all said and done. We're not going to get, I don't think we're going to get a ton of clarity either. Like, I don't think this is something that we're going to have good, visibility on heading into week 1 necessarily, just because, or it might be up until week 1 that we don't have clarity, just because like I think there's layers and context to the right tackle situation with the injuries. And since there's no clarity there, and Jalen Moore's having to play a lot over on the right side, I think that's necessitating no real competition or indications of competition over at the left guard spot. So
what's your confidence that the starting 5 is Josh Simmons, Kingsley, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Jawan Taylor? Give me a percentage that's your starting 5.
60%.
That's it, that low. Okay.
Nothing. And it's just like, I think there's just too much uncertainty right now. That's all.
What would you need to see or hear between now and week 1 to significantly raise or lower that? Like, what information is still? I'm with you that it's a little bit more convoluted. I feel a little stronger that I think it's like a 90%. That's your starting 5. For me, I think that's the starting 5. I'm 90% sure. Unless Jawan Taylor's not healthy or somebody else gets hurt, I feel very confident. I think the only non-injury related thing that could change my mind is if the first team offensive line goes out there again in this final preseason game and Kingsley once again has an even worse game than what he's had so far. He plays longer, and so the pass protection just stares at you a little bit more. That's the only non-injury way, and I just don't even think the Chiefs are going to give that a shot. If the starters play, I still bet it's a drive or two, and that won't be enough of a sample size to change anyone's mind, is where I'm kind of stating, I think.
If Jawan plays on Friday or on next week, I'll feel better. If he plays this week, I'll feel better. Like, I think that'll up it a little bit. And then a capable Kingsley performance, I think, does the job too. So that would up it up. I just I would anticipate Jawan plays, and I would, it doesn't seem, I think it's more load management than anything, but like there just seems to be a lot of uncertainty, and we're not going to have visibility at this point because camp's closed. Everything's behind closed doors now. So, you're not going to have a lot of visibility here. So there's just a lot of shakeup there still happening. I still think there's time for more to get shaken up over on that offensive line. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
I'm Brett Goodwin, one of the owners of The Learning Tree. The Learning Tree is a neighborhood toy store in Prairie Village, Kansas. This has been here in this location since 2000s, and my husband Alan and I purchased the store in 2023. Alan and I grew up in families where we've always wanted to have a business together. Alan grew up, for instance, his parents had a jewelry store. I worked in a local toy store here in Prairie Village when I was growing up. When this opportunity happened in 2023, we knew right away we wanted to contact them and pursue the store. We wouldn't have been able to get the store without the team at Emprise Bank. From the day we contacted them, they knew what we needed to do, which was very helpful. I would absolutely recommend the team at Emprise Bank to anyone looking to secure a business. We worked with Emprise from day one. They were extremely helpful. They were always great resources. We talk to them frequently. They know the area. They're very friendly. We know who we're going to talk with, and they know what we need to do. We hope we'll see you at the Learning Tree.
Folks, nothing beats hanging out with the boys on a hot summer day and watching some baseball. And the simplest way that you all can get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It is crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. And the best part is Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. Don't settle for a smaller payout. Switch to Pick 6, and right now new customers can get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Here's what you got to do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and then use code KCSN. That's code KCSN for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Void where prohibited. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Bonus picks expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Thanks everyone hanging out with us on the KC Laboratory. Ken Swanson and Matty Lane breaking down week 2 against the Seahawks. Big existential questions about this team in general. Looking ahead a little bit to week 3 at some point here too. But let's talk about that running back rotation now. Trying to get clarity, trying to get an understanding of that. A lot of names in the mix, trying to piece all that thing together. But first off, Matty, like what were your thoughts on the running back room in this first in this second week of the preseason?
You know what? Before we get to the running back room, I want to talk about the Chiefs' just run game real quick in general and how frustrating it is to me that this team clearly doesn't put as much work into their run game as they do their pass game. And it's so evident from the offensive line. Like, just the amount of play. Watching the Seahawks, now they were going up against a Chiefs defense that was not playing particularly well, or their starters, but watching how much pride they took, even on a zone run, of getting a hat on a hat and then owning that like confrontation, like winning that battle. You could see it. It's even from guys like Abe Lucas and Charles Cross at offensive tackle, who are better pass protectors than like mauling run blockers. But you could see when they got to a defender, their goal was to like completely dominate the rep. And so many times for the Chiefs, it's just like, okay, we got in the way. Besides Trey Smith, okay, we got in the way. We're good. And I'm not saying that's bad. It's it's an angles and space-based run game based around the RPOs and the motion, misdirection. Like, that's what they do. But just the buy-in and how many times the Chiefs just like have the right numbers, and they're even running a pretty decent direction to out leverage a defense, but just one player randomly just happens to not make a great block. And this goes back to the Cardinals game too. It's been Trey Smith. It's been Kingsley at times. It's been Josh Simmons. Like, it's been all of them. This goes to the regular season. It's just, they constantly have just one person who doesn't execute their block. And it just feels like there's just a lack of emphasis, not bad coaching, not improper technique or anything like that. It's just like there's a lack of emphasis on some of those run plays. And it is entirely frustrating when you pair that with a running back room that lacks dynamic ability and has highly questionable vision. Like, it's just like that, those two things added to an offensive line who doesn't seem to emphasize like completely dominating in the trenches and owning every single space up there. It really creates a very stagnant, boring run game that even a 6-yard gain for the Chiefs just kind of feels like, okay, I guess. It never even just feels like that was a good 6 yards. It's just like, they found 6 yards of space and then fell down. It is one of the most frustrating things to watch. It's a preseason, so you don't want to jump the shark here, but this is going on for years now. This is not just this single thing. So I don't know. It's frustrating. It's a little bit of a rant getting it off my chest. And I think it was just very different watching the Seattle Seahawks non-super, like, it's not a super imposing offensive line. It's a lot of new pieces with new coaching, and they were run by a zone, like a very zone run emphasizing offensive coordinator, and they were just out there taking the lunch money from the Chiefs defenders, and the Chiefs in the run game were just kind of like, we're here, we're in the way, let's move on. Frustrating.
Anyways, other than that, sir, this is a Wendy's.
Yeah.
Some running back takes though, like just the running backs themselves. Anything about those?
I thought it was interesting that Carson Steele got the. I mean, like Mr. Kareem Hunt didn't play, but Carson Steele was the number 2 running back in that game. So like you can make an argument that kind of puts him as the third guy. He played a couple third downs there. I thought it was interesting. I don't know if it means a ton because it felt like the week prior they went to Elijah Mitchell a little bit earlier. This week they decided to give Carson Steele it. Carson Steele had some okay runs. Some of Josh Simmons' poor run blocking probably hampered his overall output, so I wouldn't put that on Steele. But then we get to that 4th down play where he has to jump over Jared Wiley, but he jumps like backwards and laterally back into Big Bob and where the safety running the alley is coming from. If he just continues to run straight and goes right off of the hip of Trey Smith and like over Jared Wiley's midsection and not his legs, he picks up an easy first down. And just the fact that he doesn't see that and he actively jumps into more contact, it's just little things like that. It's just like, man, what do we do? If that's the short yardage back, he has to see that, right? Like that's something he has to see. So what's his role moving forward? So I don't know. I just once again feel very unsettled about what this running back room looks like.
I do too. I have no great pulse on things. I think part of why I don't have a great pulse on it right now is I do feel like we have this presupposition about Brashard Smith being such a key cog in this whole thing. Like where there's expectations and belief that he's going to be making this roster. And like, I think that probably needs to be slowed down. And it actually makes
an exciting run or two though.
Well, I'll get there in a second. I think that I do think if Brashard Smith's not on the roster, it actually makes things feel a lot easier to navigate when you're kind of picking out like this group of players, like who winds up on the roster. Brashard Smith, like, I think it's funny coming off the heels of a solid performance, averaging 7.3 yards per carry in the run game, including a 10-yard run and getting 2 catches for 16 yards and having a couple plays of 10 yards or more. I'm just struggling to figure out what the vision for him is, how he fits, what his role looks like on this team to justify the roster spot right now. Like, I do think there's value to him, and I think I think he could be more of a DeAnthony Thomas than he could a true running back, because like I don't think he can pass pro. I don't know how great he is running in between the tackles. Still think there's some questions about the vision. There's juice there. There's plenty of juice, but how does it look for a roster construction? From a roster construction perspective, can you keep Carson Steele and Brashard Smith on the roster at the same time? I know that's completely two diametrically opposed types, but when you're trying to figure out this roster, it's like, are we keeping a fullback? Are we keeping a Carson Steele type player? And then if we're doing that, can we keep Brashard Smith on the roster, knowing that we need, capable running back depth, and our running back depth of players that we could stick their nose in pass protection, turn around and hand the ball off on short yardage. Those things all are kind of, that depth gets thin pretty quick too, right? If those are the things that are keeping my mind unsettled at the running back position. And I think it's tricky. I think it's tricky to try to figure out who winds up getting in this room, because I think it's all about what this team's vision for short yardage, what their vision is for special teams, matters tremendously when they're trying to piece this whole thing together.
Yeah, I keep getting in a lot of trouble from, the comment sections and Chiefs fans and stuff for saying, I don't know if Brashard Smith's a lock, and people really want to put him in there as this complete lock. And I get it, right? Theoretically, he has the most juice. I mean, Elijah Mitchell, if healthy, I would argue is comparable, in terms of how much speed and stuff they have. We just don't know if he's healthy. It's just watching Brashard Smith. Yeah, it's just not natural as a runner. And while I think there is an avenue for him to be this receiver out of the backfield, this third down back that's utilized mostly as a receiver that can come in and matter for the team a little bit, can do some stuff. I do think that there's an angle there for that. But I feel like if that's the case, you got to feel really good about your other running backs ahead of him, right? I don't think the Chiefs are there yet. You can't have this full-on specialized pass-catching running back, not third down, because with the pass pro, he hasn't got a ton of opportunities, but he's a very small running back who it seems like in practice has not always had his best reps. We haven't got a ton in preseason, but I doubt he's going to be used as a pass protector very much. So you can't have this very narrow rolled, specialized receiving running back in this running back room that has got Isaiah Pacheco, who's often hurt a little bit and very up and down with his consistency, Mr. Kareem Hunt, who's, just the wear and tear on his body. And then you're probably having to decide between Elijah Mitchell and Carson Steele, who one of them will make it, one gets cut. It's just, I don't know. It's very convoluted. Like you said, I think it does get tricky to try to keep Brashard Smith this year into that room. Now, we come to this third preseason game. He gets more opportunities, looks more comfortable running. Maybe he gets opportunities behind the actual first team offensive line, and he breaks off a big run that isn't an end around, or breaks off a big run that isn't spin, very impressive spin out of the backfield, but then just breaking contained because of, the flow and everything just overran the play. Those two runs, I don't think are overly repeatable throughout a season, right? So I don't know if I fall back on, look at these glimpses of explosive runs from Brashard Smith. Maybe forcing the missed tackle is repeatable, but the way those runs went down, I just don't think are overly repeatable. So yeah, I'm a little bit more on the fence with him than I think a lot of fans are right now. And I just trying to get people to slow down and pump their brakes a little bit, because I still haven't quite seen it that says that's why they have to have him on the 53-man roster right now.
Right. So if you expect them to keep 4 running backs, including Carson Steele, and they keep 9 offensive linemen, and and they keep 3 tight ends, I mean, you're looking at seven receivers probably to start because of the situation with Rashee Rice. You might have 7 receivers on the initial 53-man roster. Where are you cutting? Are you keeping 4 interior defensive linemen? Because the Chiefs have 5 rosterable edges right now. I just think trying to piece this thing together, I think, there's 5 linebackers. I've got 5 linebackers, 6 corners.
Oh, we're a week away from picking this 53-man roster here, because I got to do all this math in my head. Are we sure it's 7 wide receivers?
So Worthy,
I feel like 7 was felt more likely when you knew Rashee Rice was going to go right onto a suspended list, right? Like when you needed that. If you're going to have Rashee Rice, I don't know if you need 7 right away.
Worthy, Brown, Juju, Rashee, Remigio, Royals.
Oh yeah, we got Thornton right there that we feel like is pretty close to a lock, huh? At least I do. Yeah, okay. This will be a conversation for next week. We got to pick out this 53-man roster, but yeah, that's something. You're right.
It's tight, man. It's tight. Jared Wiley went before Bob Tonyan on the rotation.
Listen, don't get me started.
Just telling you, man. Like
I know he did. Don't get me started. I know he did. Just I don't want to talk about it.
Well, I was looking at the 53-man roster projections for the defensive side of the ball too. Boy, not a good showing for a lot of guys that, I mean, we think might wind up on that 53-man roster. Am I right, Maddie?
Buddy, that was one of the absolute worst defensive performances I have ever seen. I don't know if the Chiefs had just no interest in going to the Northwest to play a football game. I don't know if the weather threw them off. I don't know what it was, but the lack of energy and then good football play behind it was just evident from the first snap on both sides of the ball, but especially the defensive side of the ball. That was rough. And like, you wanted to start trying to find like, this part was, you're trying to find a few little highlights that you can cling on to. I don't think I have a single thing. Maybe you guys, stayed up all the way to the fourth quarter, found something with the 4 stringers that you can really hang your hat on.
Bassa shot a gap and
Nice.
get a play.
Nice. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Stuff like that.
Bassa looked a little bit more assured in what he was seeing and was a little bit more.
Is he still lining up 3 yards deeper than every other linebacker?
No. And he actually made a couple adjustments. He still had to get pointed and shot out of a cannon a couple of times, but he actually picked up on a couple of things. He was a little bit more aware. Like, so there's some good things there. Like, but no, there wasn't very many highlights whatsoever.
Like, I just don't like. Oh, Najee Johnson made a really great play on a fade, then got hurt shortly thereafter on that play. But like, there just wasn't a lot defensively that stood out to me. I know Omar Norman Lott got hurt. I don't think he was putting out good plays before he got hurt. It kind of felt like he was getting his butt kicked in the run game a little bit. Yep. I didn't think Mike Pennell, who I think is actually a pretty good nose tackle, especially versus the run, I didn't think he put out his best performance in that game. He was kind of getting handled by some really young, athletic, I wouldn't say powerhouse interior offensive linemen of Seattle. It felt like that outside zone stuff was kind of, and the pitches were stressing the Chiefs' really bad linebackers. And this is similar to my run game thing. I'm not going to rant about the whole thing, but the Chiefs still have no idea how to fit 21 personnel runs. Like, this is something that this has plagued them since Steve Spagnuolo got here. And like, you want to go with multiple tight ends? No problem. Leo's going to go line up somewhere and beat up on a guard or a tight end and blow up the player. Nick Bolton's going to shoot at gaps. We're good. But the moment you put a fullback in the backfield, the Chiefs starters, backups, third stringers just like functionally forget how you have to flow, how you have to overlap, especially against a fullback and then a pulling offensive lineman. They really struggle to fit that. The Raiders for years, even with a bad run game, have beat up on them trying to do that with Josh McDaniels when he was there. Like, it's something about using the fullback has really just like thrown a wrinkle into what the Chiefs do. I think the Seattle took advantage of that early in this game. So yeah, I was not impressed by the defense. I don't really have much good things to say. And I think like this whole section here about the defensive depth, that's the problem, right? Like, we don't have any good things to say about anybody defensively. Like, who stood out? You said Bassa, that's it, right? Like, nobody else.
And Bassa wasn't perfect either. So like there's not a ton to be excited about. And I'm trying to figure out if this is really par for the course though for this team, right? Because like this team is definitely made up a lot of superstars and then roster, players like this, like Jack Cochran is going to wind up on this roster.
I don't know how. We're getting real close to Ben Neiman territory.
I mean, it is special teams and trust. It is
the trust. I don't get the trust right now with Neiman. I could see the trust. I'm not seeing the trust. I don't get the trust right now because, well, they're wrong on just about everything they do. They're slow to line up. I get it. Like, yeah, there's a spagsness to it where it's like, I trust that guy to do it. He's good on special teams, but you can't find anybody that can line people up that poorly. Like, he's not doing a great job directing stuff. So like, I don't know.
I get it. No,
43 and 48, man. That's a rough duo there.
No, I completely understand. But looking at the depth on this roster, it's not a ton of names that are, I mean, like, I'm trying to think of the new names really, right? Like, it feels like it's a lot of the same names and then some of the rookies that are part of the depth of this roster, right? It's Roland Wallace, Mike Edwards, it's Joshua Williams, it's Najee Johnson, it's Jack Cochran, Bossa. I mean, these are a lot of the same names that we've seen from this team in the past, lining up and being on the depth of this team. So I have a lot of thoughts on this thought process for the Chiefs, with regards to Game 3, with regards to Game 2, and all this stuff. If there's anything else you want to say about the defensive depth,
Oh boy, no. I
It's
feel
bad.
I didn't think that Felix built on what I thought was a decently promising game against the Cardinals. So that was disappointing.
Yeah.
Big Lotto, Ashton Gelati, was the same. He was all over the place. He was a hectic ball of chaos, which works on some plays, but in that game where he wasn't playing with starters, it doesn't work. So I still have some hope that he can have an impact when he's playing with starters and you just drop in that ball of energy and see what happens. Okay, I can still buy it. Noel Williams, I thought actually was a little rough. I think he misunderstood the first touchdown on the run play. He followed the motion across the formation and the safety rolled down. So they were completely out leveraged, outmanned, outgapped on the backside. And I don't know if it was Noel or Brian Cook that was wrong. Judging by the reactions, it looked like Noel Williams, though. And then in coverage, he slipped a lot. He had like 8 hands to the face penalties. So I just don't think anybody built on what could have been a good performance against Arizona in this game. And that's what I thought you wanted to see. You just want to see people steadily going up. This felt like a lot more of like a flat line after the first preseason game for all of the young defenders.
Yes, 100% agree. And it's a lifeless, energyless performance. It was just the worst thing I've seen in.
You got one more. You got a game to switch that around, right? You got one more game to hit it with the Uno reverse card, and this doesn't matter. It's just, and I'm not saying it was bad. That's I want to say very clear. It's a flat. Like nobody played so poorly that it's like, oh, they're terrible. You can't use them at all. Besides 43 and 48, but it was everybody else was just like flat from Arizona. So
yeah, I'm a little worried about the pass rush too. Because there's a lot of young guys. They need something. They need some help. They need these young guys to really step up. Like, they've got to get the young guys to a level that they can contribute. So, because that's the improvement. By the way, Tershawn Ward's not here anymore, and the early returns on the youngsters don't give me this warm, fuzzy feeling that they've found a way to replace him in the aggregate. So it's the same pass rush as last year, and hoping the upside and improvement of these youngsters that haven't looked particularly great to this point. Like, you might have a worse pass rush than a bad pass rush last year. But I'm not ready to like put the nail in anyone. I just have some things that are a little bit red flaggy. But when we're talking about like Game 2, like my theories, my thought process, I think this is a 9:00 game for the Chiefs' body time, for the team's body time. It's on turf. I don't think they were planning the weather. I don't think the weather played a factor. I think it just so happened that the weather was bad. But I just wonder if like this, they were just like, that was part of the process. And like, they're actually going to play them in week 1 on grass, trying to change some things up just a little bit. But the break in routine and the break in the norm for the Chiefs and how they've gone about their business did not seem to prove well for them in this game. I think maybe having these starters sit out entirely might have set a tone from the jump, with how this game was going to go. And then, you take in the fact that like literally, the game's ending at midnight, their body time, and it's raining. Like, a lot was stacked up against them in a game that did not matter, that the coaching staff flat out, set the tone very quickly about what that game was about and who it was for. I don't know. Everything seemed off. And it was a break from the norm for the Chiefs too. So like, can you blame them? I don't know. It felt flat. And then you add in the weather and then all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. It just did not look good.
Yeah, and so we talked a lot about how the way Andy was handling this game was a break from his norm, and which it is. I want to be very clear. It still was a break from his norm, but I heard something. One, Andy talking about how some starters might play in this next game against the Chicago Bears, and it's a home preseason game, right? So like maybe there is something to getting them a getting them a drive at home in front of the fans, you're doing a solid to the fans, but also knowing in the back of his mind, hey, we are going to play them there. I actually heard the Green Bay Packers were planning on doing this exact same thing. LaFleur said that they weren't going to play their starters in their week 2 preseason game, but their home week 3 third preseason game, they were going to play them. Now Jordan Love got hurt since then, so like maybe they won't now, but that was their plan too. So maybe there are some NFL coaches around that are trying to do this play their starters in the preseason and just playing them. And we've only got 3 seasons now of dealing with these only having 3 preseason games, right? So like it's new. They're still figuring it out. Andy Reid typically in the past, when it was 4, starters played a good bit in the 3rd preseason game. They ramped up, played a good bit in the 3rd one, and then they stopped. Well, now they switched to 3. We didn't know how Andy would handle that, and he just was doing the 1-2 and not playing near as much. But I don't know. This could be like, I'm just saying, like, we talk, it's not the norm, but also we only have a couple seasons of quote unquote the norm for what 3 preseason games look like. And I just thought it was interesting that another team was considering doing their starters too. I think the Chiefs might actually. I think we might get one more series from the starters. I'm starting to believe it. I'm buying the dip from Andy here. And I do think it matters that Chiefs fans at home have not gotten to see a preseason game yet. You don't have to. And like no one's going to freak out if they don't, but letting your home fans come out to Arrowhead and see the starters play one drive does mean something to fans. And it's like, I could definitely see just as an organization standpoint being like, hey, can we please do this? And so you give them some of the big starters, the top guys, that week 2 game off in the Northwest, in the rain, way late at night, and with full on knowing they're going to play again later. I think we might see the starters, most of them anyway, on this final preseason game, which will be nice. Like I would like to.
I do too. I wonder if they want to try to give them a little bit of not as much of a break in between real competition too. Like I think there's just some thought process about mixing some things up a little bit. And I don't think Mahomes is playing much still. And like this team has just played so much football too. They played the maximum games that they could possibly play over the last 3 seasons. And I think that matters a little bit too. They've lost 6 weeks worth of time off over the last 3 years. This team is also slowly transitioning a little bit because you are on the wrong side of 30 for Chris. You're on the wrong side of 33 for Travis, and Mahomes turns 30 this year. So the mentality might even shift a little bit as we go. But you would have just liked to see someone else find their own energy, right? Bring their own energy to this game. Yeah. They really didn't, and they paid dearly. Now, big opportunity for a lot of different players in this final preseason game. If we are going to see the starters a little bit, if we're going to get an opportunity for them to go out a little bit.
We better see a starting offensive line. That's just the one thing. I do think they need reps, and it's the 2 young guys. Creed and Trey Smith obviously don't really need reps. Juwan Taylor probably doesn't need reps either if he's your starter. But like I do think Josh Simmons still needs reps. Like if he is playing a little fast, he needs more reps so that he can be more comfortable in his own athleticism, which is plenty, to slow down a little bit. It's like sometimes you don't have to be moving. You don't have to lunge into contact early. More reps is going to help that. Kingsley obviously needs more reps so that he can feel more comfortable playing guard in his pass pro stuff. So like I don't see a negative to doing this. I understand injuries can happen. Guys might need rest, but like they're playing at most like 10 snaps in these games right now. Like they're getting 1, maybe 2 drives if it's not a long one. So like, I don't know. I don't feel like those 10, 12 snaps are going to be the make or break thing. If somebody gets injured, highly unfortunate, but like, who's to say that's not happening in week 1? Because it's not just like, overuse over time, and like having that extra 12 snaps off their plate's going to matter. So I hope you see the starting offensive line at bare minimum, because I do think they need that work, especially on the left side, and it'll make them better come the playoff run. Those 12 reps don't sound like a lot, but that probably means more than getting that week off in terms of trying to make a playoff run for those young guys in particular.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here. We're going to need a couple more days of clarity to find out kind of what the plan is for the Chiefs in their week 3 performance against the Chicago Bears in Arrowhead Stadium. I can't wait for that game. And we'll be back on Wednesday with Craig to get 7 minutes with Craig, and also all kinds of analysis getting you ready for that game. And make sure you're checking everything else going on in KC Sports Network this week as well. That is going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
You never want to miss 7 minutes with Craig.